We about there? All right. Welcome, everyone. I appreciate having everyone here. It's Happy New Year, even though the month is almost over. Welcome to our January Board of Delegates meeting. I'm not going to go through the charge. Everyone here routinely is respectful, and we'll just move on to a call to order. Well, I'm calling to order, but to our roll call. And if everyone please would listen for your town government and for the delegate to state your name, and then the alternate also to state your name second. So with that, Alana, can you roll call us in?
Good evening, everyone. I'll be doing a roll call this evening.
I'm sorry, Chantel.
You're fine. I will say the county name, and just let me know if you are present. Aberdeen.
Will Mullaney, Aberdeen here.
Thank you, Andrew.
Bob Smith, present.
Apex.
Brett Gant, Apex present.
Ed Gray, alternate, present as well.
Thank you. Archer Lodge. Vincent. Broadway. Cameron. Carborough. Carthage. Cary. Chapel Hill. Chatham County.
Here.
Thank you. Clayton. Durham. City of Durham. Durham County. Fuquay-Varina. Garner.
Yeah, Ken Marshburn from Garner, present.
Thank you. Golston. Hillsborough.
Kathleen Ferguson for Hillsborough is here.
Thank you. Holly Springs.
Tim Forrest, Holly Springs.
Thank you. Johnson County. Kenley. Nightdale.
Jessica Day, present for Nightdale.
Thank you. Lee County.
Kirk Smith, Lee County.
Thank you. Micro. Moore County. Mooresville.
Beaver.
Thank you. Orange County.
Sally Green, present.
Thank you. Pine Level. Pinehurst.
Jeff Morgan representing Pinehurst.
Thank
Present.
you. Pittsboro.
Pamela Baldwin, Pittsburgh, present.
Thank you.
And John Bonnet's alternate.
Thank you both. Princeton. Raleigh. Robbins, Roseville,
Ronnie Kern, present.
thank you. Sanford,
Rebecca Wyhoff Salmon, City of Sanford.
thank you. Selma,
Byron McAllister, delegate, present.
Amy West Whitley, alternate.
Siler City, Smithfield,
Andy Moore, Mayor.
thank you. Southern Pines, Vass, Wake County,
Susan Evans, present. Shanika Thomas, alternate.
thank you. Thank you both. Wake Forest,
Chad Seri, present.
thank you. Wendell,
Joe Deloach, present.
Gaines Eatman, alternate.
thank you both. Wilson's Mills, and Zebulon. Has anyone came in since I've started roll call?
Butch Lauder, Johnston County.
This is James Etta Bedford, Orange County alternate.
Did you get Anger, Bob Smith?
All right. Thank you so much. And yes, we have more.
All right, well, welcome everyone, and it's great to see some new faces and always great to see returning faces to this new year. And so for now, I trust that everyone has had a chance to review the agenda. Are there any changes? Hearing none, the agenda is adopted, and we will move on to an introduction of our new members, the delegates and alternates. And we welcome you both and hope that the alternates feel as welcome to attend as the delegates. So Alana?
Sorry, thanks. I wasn't sure if I should start. Good evening, everyone. We're really excited, as we often do in January, to have some new faces with us. I think me and Chantel both noted that there was a couple of additional names that we hadn't received yet that didn't make it onto the PowerPoint. That does not mean that we're not happy that you're here. We're really excited to have all of you. So some of the names that are on this PowerPoint are actually individuals who were our alternate and have moved into the role of delegate, which is fabulous news. We always like to see folks who want to be even more involved in the board. And thank you to all those who are new alternates and delegates. If there's anyone who would like to say a quick word about your community, I know we've got a really tight agenda, but we do want to make some time for everyone to introduce themselves. You could do it in the chat or unmute. We would love to just hear some welcomes from anyone who's interested.
I'll say hello from Pinehurst, the home of golf, and the new USGA headquarters for North Carolina. We're close to the center of the state, and we welcome you all to come visit. We got a great place.
All right, and while you're there, come see Southern Pines. This is the mayor of Southern Pines, Carol Haney. We had a Tri-Cities meeting yesterday, so this is my Triangle J week, obviously.
All right, well, welcome everyone. It's not normal for electeds to be this quiet, but we will move on. And we have some new staff with Triangle J, and which again, we're excited, just indicative of how much growth that we're having and what we're serving and how we're serving our communities. And so Mary Warren, please feel free to step up and introduce our newest folks.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. I'm Mary Warren. I'm the Director of the Area Agency on Aging, and it's my pleasure tonight to introduce our newest staff member, Angela Woodard, who has taken the position of Program Associate. And she's been with us now since mid-November, so she's had a little bit of time to get her feet wet, to get involved, and to start to learn us and some of our support needs. And I'm just really happy to have her. And I'd like you to welcome her, and I'm going to turn it over to Angela and let her tell you a little more about herself.
Thank you, Mary. Yes, so I'm Angela Woodard, and I started in November the 15th, actually. Before I was a member of TJ-COG, I was actually a care manager. So a lot of my work has been done with families and individuals in various scenarios and settings and things of that nature. So this coming to TJ-COG is really is a little bit of a challenge in terms of I have to reframe myself and think about other ways, which is just more of the administrative type stuff, whereas I was used to working more with families. So I've kind of geared down a little bit or geared up or however else to try to do the things that I need to get done, if you will. So, but before being a care manager, I was a social worker in a nursing home, and that certainly gave me some perspective in that setting. And so that was good as well. That had some positive interactions there and some things that maybe opened my eyes a little bit differently, if you will. And prior to becoming a social worker, I was a case manager for a nonprofit organization where I worked with folks with disabilities. There was a day program that I was a part of and working with folks with brain injuries. And so all of that work combined has led me to where I am now with TJ-COG, and I'm just excited to be here and just see what I can get done. As far as what I'm working on, I'm still again trying to learn. What all the names and the players and all that good stuff. And I think one of the things that pulled me into this area was the Ombudsman program and the fact that they are strong advocates for the residents. And that's one of the things that I enjoy about this program and working for a community. So again, I'm just really excited about being a part of the team and continue to work with these guys and just learn all I can. So that's okay. So here we go. So yes, I think I pretty much touched on that when I was working as a social worker. One of the folks that actually a couple of people that I came into touch with or in contact with was Amy Kepler and Jennifer Link, and both of those guys came to the nursing home that I was working with, or actually Amy didn't, but it was Jennifer, and I had many conversations with Amy on the phone and about some families and things of that nature. So again, when this position became available, I was really pulled to it. So again, I'm happy to be here.
Well, again, welcome. We're thrilled to have you on board, and can't wait to see what magic you bring to our region. And so with that, it's time to turn it over to our executive director for the exciting topic, but very important, of our audit. And we do have some important pieces to pay attention to. So Lee, if you want to take over.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, evening, everybody. Lee Worsley, Executive Director of the Triangle J Council of Governments. I also like to welcome all of our new delegates and new alternates. And what a way to start your first meeting than the audit. But it is a very important fiduciary duty that the board has over the finances of the organization. And so we're pleased to present the audit results and the wrap up. Just a couple things that I want to highlight. Number one, in our partner, our auditor at Cherry Beckert, April and Olivia will go into more detail and obviously answer any questions that you have, but very proud that this is once again a clean audit, no findings. I think it exemplifies the hard work and the dedication that the staff here at Triangle J have to making sure that we not only provide good service to our members, but we do it in a way that's compliant with the multitude of federal and state regulations that we have. And we'll talk about this more for new delegates as we go into orientation next month. But one of the challenging and unique things about this organization is we have a number of federal and state grants and sources of funds that have a lot of tight compliance and auditing requirements. So our staff does a fabulous job at dealing with those. One thing that we will talk about this evening that I want to go ahead and let the board know about. You may notice that our finance director, Ms. Judy Weller, is not here tonight. She is dealing with a very serious family emergency. And so she has not been at work since mid-November. We do have an interim finance director, Ms. Nancy Medlin, who's stepped in and done a great job. But because of the timing of Ms. Weller's absence, we were not able to get the audit into the local government commission by the December 1st deadline. It's a very understandable reason. With her leaving so suddenly, we were not able to get the last pieces of the audit complete. We've already been in communication with the local government commission to let them know, but we'll need to take a couple of extra steps just to amend the contract with the auditor and to disclose that the audit was late. And obviously we've never had a late audit, and the circumstances were out of our control, and we've taken care of that, and everything's fine, but just missed it by about a week or two. So with that, I want to introduce April Adams, and Olivia is on as well, and they will present the audit to the board. Thank you.
Thanks, Lee. Yeah, I'm April Adams, and I'm the audit partner on the engagement. And with me tonight is Olivia Moody. She served as the manager, and so she's here to help me with any questions that I can't answer in the details. All right, there we go. I was trying to figure out how to switch the slide, and I realized I don't have control. That's great. All right, so tonight what I'd like to cover with you is just to briefly remind you the role of the external auditor. Then I've got, I think what actually comes next is the results. So it's in a little different order than I'm used to presenting, but we'll go with it. So the role of the external auditor, then I'll cover internal controls, just mention briefly the role of that within the audit. I'll identify the significant audit areas. And this says results, then I'll cover the results. And then I've got some financial information or highlights from the financial statements themselves that I'll cover. And then I'll do a quick summary of what you should take away from tonight's presentation. And then I'll be glad to take any questions or comments. All right, so the role of the external auditor. We perform your audit in accordance with two sets of auditing standards. One is just the generally accepted auditing standards of the United States. And the second set is the government auditing standards as you're a government entity. And so both of those audit standards require us to plan and perform procedures to obtain reasonable assurance that your financial statements are free from material misstatement. And I'm sure some of you might be wondering what that really means, but that means that we perform a risk-based audit. And so we focus our procedures on where we think your financial statements are most likely to be materially misstated. And so on the flip side of that, it means that we don't test every single transaction that occurs throughout the year. Once we performed all of our work, the audit standards do require us to express opinions on that. And so because we are following 2 sets of standards, we issue 2 opinions, 1 for each standard. And then we also issue 2 additional opinions. So 4 opinions in total. And the last 2 opinions have to do with the plethora of federal and state dollars that the COG administers throughout the year. So 4 in total. And then lastly, the audit standards require us to communicate certain things to you as a board. And we do that in 2 ways. One is this presentation tonight, as well as a letter that comes with your financial statement. And the types of things that we're communicating or required to communicate are if there were significant changes in accounting policies that happen throughout the year, we identify what the significant estimates are within the financial statement, and we inform you of whether any journal entries were identified as a result of the audit. All right, we can go to the next slide. So internal controls. This order is better than what I was looking at this afternoon to prepare. All right, so internal controls. So we don't actually opine on internal controls as a part of our audit, but the audit standards do require us to do quite a bit of work on those. And so what we do report is whether we find any deficiencies while we're looking through this, while we're doing these procedures. And so what we do is we identify the significant transaction cycle. So those are things like, how does the organization receive cash? How does the organization disperse cash? And how does the organization pay payroll? What's the financial statement close, which means how does the information that gets captured on a daily basis ultimately get pulled out of that financial system and reported for the end of the year. And so what we do is we get all the policies and procedures related to all that, and we obtain an understanding. We review that, and then we walk through the key controls related to each one of those cycles. From there, we can decide if we actually want to test internal controls and then rely upon that as a part of our assurance, looking at those financial statement areas. And so we do that on a rotational basis, which means we do it every 3 years for certain cycles. And so we do test cash disbursements and the payroll cycle for the organization and rely on that as a part of our assurance. And then for journal entries, we're required to do some work there. So we get all the journal entries that happen throughout the year. We put it in a system called Active Data, which is really just to add on to Excel, but it allows us to mine that data and look for unusual transactions. And then we'll pull those and we look at, the transaction, all the supporting documentation, the approvals, and all that stuff to make sure it all lines up and makes sense. And then lastly, we have to look at the controls around the financial statements or the financial system itself. And so we're looking, we put out a questionnaire, and then we look at the general computer control. So, our passwords required. Is the system secure itself? I think your system is in the cloud. So is it secure in the cloud? No one has physical access to it, those types of things. All right, that's it for internal controls. So significant audit areas. Again, this points back to that risk-based audit that we're doing. So these are identifying what we deem to be the significant audit areas. That's going to be things like cash, the revenues and the receivables of the organization, and then payroll and the pension and Opeb. And Opeb is the other post-employment benefits. So those are the healthcare insurance for the retirees. So those are the significant audit areas. Those are where we are testing them substantively, and we're doing a combination of confirming that information with third parties. We're doing analytics, so we're looking at not just current year to prior year, but sometimes they're predictive analytics where we're based on an outside source. We're recalculating numbers to see if they make sense, and then if we have to, we will do a test of details, which I'm sure the organization would agree is the most painful, but it's where we pull a sample and have to ask for all the supporting documentation. And so that's the last part of work that we do to get assurance. I do have these other items listed out on the right-hand side of the screen that's in orange. I don't want you to think that we ignore expenses and property, plant, and equipment and things like that, but those are not the most risky areas in our opinion. So that's not where we focus our work, but we do some procedures over those items. All right, let's move to the next slide. All right, so the audit results. As I mentioned, we issue 4 opinions. All 4 opinions are unmodified, just like Lee said. So that means that you received clean opinions. Those are the opinions that you want. And it's the highest level of assurance that we can give you as an audit firm, your financial statements are free from those material misstatements, and that you're operating your federal grants in compliance with the compliance requirements. So for internal controls, again, that's not part of our opinion, but we do report to you whether we found any deficiencies or material weaknesses in our procedures. And I'm happy to report that we found none. And then for single audit, I just want to let you know which programs we audited as what we call major programs. And what that means is that we are testing those for the 14 different compliance requirements that are directed material. And so aging, the National Family Caregiver Support Program, and the Low Income Energy Assistance Program were the three major programs that we tested all those compliance requirements for. And no findings were noted as a result of all that work. And then the required communications, again, this points back to that letter that comes with your financial statements. There were no significant accounting policy changes noted during the year. Your estimates remained unchanged as to what the significant estimates are. Your allowance for doubtful accounts, your depreciation based on your depreciable lives for your capital assets, your Opeb and your pension are estimates based on actuary reports, which are based on information that the organizations provided to the actuary to base the estimate on. And then lastly, no journal entries were noted as a result of the audit. So that means that all those policies and procedures that everyone has to follow allow the organization to capture all the financial activity throughout the year and get it properly reported. All right. So that's a clean slate right there for the results of the audit. All right, so now what I want to do is just walk through a couple slides that point to some financial results from the financial statements themselves. This first slide is just looking at your general fund budget to actual results. So the revenues did come under budget. You were expecting or budgeted to receive $22 million for the year. You actually only brought in about $18 million. And while that's not the best news, your expenditures did also come in under budget. So, and that makes sense to me that your expenditures are what drive your revenues as you apply for reimbursement for the grants. So it only makes sense that those two would both be under budget. And then I just had a note here, sometimes fund balance gets appropriated to balance the budget. This past year in fiscal year 21, there was no appropriation of fund balance. And the results of the revenues and expenditures did result in a net income. And so you were able to add 42,000, sorry, to the total fund balance for the year. Let's go to the next slide. So the board did set a fund balance goal or an unassigned fund balance goal, and that is to have 2 months of general fund expenditures, excluding pass-through dollars. And so the actual amounts of that is about 3.1 million, and the unassigned fund balance at the end of the year was 3.2 million. So you're meeting your goal that you set for the organization. All right. And this slide is just the COG, or the Council of Governments, has a Opeb trust fund that's a part of the financial statements. The current balances of that as of June 30th were to have assets of $264,000, which is an increase over the prior year of $63,000. And then that liability nets against that, or the liability within the financial statements related to that asset is 2.3 million, and that actually decreased. And that's based on an actuary report that decreased 22 million or 22,000 from the prior year. All right, so in summary, the Council of Governments received clean opinions. There were no journal entries identified, no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies reported or identified, which in turn means that you've got good internal controls. And we did receive full cooperation from management to get this audit done. And we really appreciate those that helped there at the very end to get it over the finish line, stretching themselves in their positions, I'm sure, to give us what we needed to finish it out. So I appreciate that effort as well. And I'll be glad to take any questions or comments that anyone has.
So any questions for April?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to expand, if it's okay, real quickly on that topic of $3 million under revenue and $3 million under expenditures. And again,
Sure.
especially for the benefit of, well, all the board members, but especially our new board members. Even though we are a local government, our budgets are quite different in terms of how they are created and how they actually move through the fiscal year compared to a local government. And April hit on this. Last year was a year where, with the pandemic, we saw a lot of potential grant opportunities come our way, especially in the aging program with a lot of CARES money. And even though those new opportunities sort of came about and we budgeted for them, not everything exactly got spent as quickly, big surprise, as quickly as we thought that they would come from the state. So the organization is really about receivables and payables and the way the cash flows based on the grants. So that's quite different than maybe a typical local government budget where you know you're going to get a certain amount of property tax and sales tax. And if you are way under your property tax revenues, you've got a lot of questions about collections and things like that. The COG budget really doesn't have those sources of revenues. It's grants and funds that we know we're going to receive. It's just a question of timing. So April, as I'm trying to help with the finance side, I hope I haven't butchered anything.
Oh, you laid that out there wonderfully. Yeah, I think it's to have that additional context.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? And if you can use your electronic hand, because I'm not able to see everyone. I don't see any, so we will move on. Thank you, April. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And we look forward to seeing you for our next audit.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
All right, thanks. All right, now for the next, we'll begin our items of business, and Alana will present the COGS technical assistance focus for the 2020 through 2021. So Alana, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. And I apologize. My dog immediately started barking the second you said my name. So if you hear that, please try and disregard. He's still barking, but hopefully we can get through it and he'll calm down. Working from home, right? Good evening, everyone. I'm very excited to get the chance to talk with all of you for a little bit about the technical assistance focus area. As Chair Ferguson said, my name is Elena Keegan, and I'm our member engagement manager at the COG. And one of my responsibilities is to oversee this focus area. Some of you who have been coming to all of the meetings for the past year so have seen a good number. Okay, hold on one second.
Yeah, animals and kids always have to jump in.
Yeah, no, we understand. I'll fill in on that sort of preview, and then when Elena gets back, we've been bringing to the board updates on all of our focus areas. So areas like aging and human services, transportation, natural resources and resiliency, technical assistance is one. And what the goal of this is, at each board meeting to give you an update on sort of what we've accomplished in that focus area. And then also to talk a little bit about what we hope to maybe achieve next year, and to get feedback from the board, making sure that as we think about our focus areas, that they're aligned correctly, that ultimately we're here to serve all these local governments, that we're meeting your needs, and to get good feedback on that. So with that, I see Elena is back. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Lee. And I appreciate everyone's patience on that. He just got very excited that I was presenting, I guess. So Lee covered exactly what I was going to say, which is that we've been discussing each of these focus areas. And so the technical assistance area, as you'll see as I talk through it, is a little bit different than some of these other areas, as it really touches the rest of our focus areas. So I'm really excited to talk through that with all of you this evening. So we have 4 goals that I'm going to talk through for the technical assistance focus area. And as I go through each goal, I will warn everyone that it's a little bit interactive. As Lee mentioned, we want your feedback. So I'm going to talk about each of these 4 goals and a little bit of some examples of the work we've been doing. And I have some questions for all of you if you're willing to share to continue to guide this work. And so these 4 goals that you see on the screen really are all getting to one important point. We have 46 local governments. You're all different in various ways, and we want to make sure that the assistance we're offering is able to help each of those communities wherever they may be in their journey of development and where they want to see themselves. And so these are the 4 goals. I'm going to read them out and then talk through each of them. First is to offer a variety of assistance to support the diverse needs of our communities. Second is to increase capacity for things that may either be hard to fill or duplicative if they're done at the local level. Third is to serve as an external source of guidance and advocacy, and I'll talk a little bit about that with one very specific example that you've all heard a lot about in the past year or so. And then fourth is to provide cost-effective and locally driven expertise to every community, no matter what size they may be. So the first one is offering a variety of assistance to all of our members, regardless of size or location. I'm not going to go through each of these step by step, but you can see, and I do not want to put any communities in a box either, but I do have 3 boxes on my slide, and that's simply to make it easier to kind of show all of you the kind of work and what it relates to in terms of communities. And so I'm going to go each one by one through these community types, and hopefully you see yourselves in one of these boxes. First is our smaller communities, not necessarily always rural, but you often have less staff. I know some of you have that. You may have no full-time staff, and you have some challenges with service delivery. Assistance to those communities has and continues to look like things like day-to-day assistance. We have some communities we're providing finance assistance to day in and day out. We've got several folks who are planning staff for several of our communities, filling in gaps that they may not be able to address themselves. We've been assisting a lot with actual creation and enforcement of zoning for some of our communities, as well as helping a good number of you adapt to 160D requirements and other sort of legislation that might be coming from the state or federal governments. And then things like capital improvement planning that they can see you or hear you that may not exist within the organization. The second bucket, many of our communities fall into this. You are not small anymore. You maybe were small and you no longer are, and you're experiencing immense amount of growth. You're probably transitioning as a community. Your growth has come before the growth in your revenue, and so you're experiencing some challenges that come with that. Assistance that we've been providing and continue to provide to those types of communities look like strategic planning. We have several communities that we are leading through a strategic planning process right now. Organizational assessments and a variety of HR assistance. So does your organization have the right structure for the growth that you're facing? Things like growth audits, which I will actually talk about on a later slide, because it's a fabulous project that we did with another individual in the region. Personnel recruitment. Do you have the right people leading your organization to take your community into the next phase of growth? Data collection and development trends, learning from communities that may be past you in the process, and things like GIS. And then we have our urban communities, our largest ones. You may have already fully developed, or you're almost at capacity in terms of development. You're experiencing development pressures and other sort of pressures that come with development. Things like, are we being environmentally resilient? Are we working with our neighbors to make sure that we're coordinating with them and thinking through our vision? Assistance for them looks more like things under this box, such as long-range planning, opportunity site and land use analysis, facilitation on maybe challenging conversations like affordable housing, which can be sometimes hard for communities to talk about. And then things like policy guidance, or as our solid waste consortium has been, a little bit more of a leveraging of resources on behalf of many communities to address a challenge. And so my question on this goal, I know I threw a lot at you and you don't have to remember all of them. How can the COG continue to ensure that it offers assistance that meet the different needs of all of our different communities? And you're more than welcome to speak from your own personal experience of wherever your community may be. So if anyone has any thoughts on this question, feel free to.
This is Carol Haney, Mayor of Southern Pines. We had the Tri-Cities, I guess you could call it, meeting yesterday with Pinehurst, Aberdeen, and Southern Pines. To me, that is one of the greatest things that you all do, because we have the town managers to come together. You have our town planners that come together with y'all's help, and you can exchange ideas and ask questions as how you can help us. To me, that's you're meeting our needs, and you all respond so beautifully and quickly to what people are asking you to do and to research. So that to me is one of the greatest things that you all can do for us.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, we've got some great staff that facilitate that, that effort on behalf of those 3 communities in Moore County.
Hi, this is Ken Marshburn in Garner, Mayor. I know it may have been 2 years ago now, but at our annual retreat, we usually invite outside facilitators and resources to come. And I know we had a couple of your staff to come and lead us through a discussion on affordable housing, and provided some pretty significant data that we could look at, and maybe gave us some ideas of looking at things a little differently than perhaps we had. So I found that to be helpful, and we'll probably be, we're going to have another retreat in a month. I'm not sure we've scheduled anybody from the COG to come, but those kinds of things are helpful. Sometimes we have information, but even if it's good information, it's nice to have a different perspective and resources that we ordinarily don't use. So thank you for your help with that.
Of course. Thank you, Mayor.
Alana, I'd like to address, because the way the question is phrased is how we go about it as opposed to what we do. And I think one of the strengths that the COG brings is the community engagement with with staff, meeting with the individual communities, the convening of whether it's the managers or smart cities, but the convening where collectively the COG hears what needs are needed across a discipline or a particular issue area, which gives context to the individual needs that come forth in the individual conversations. And I think that is of real value.
Absolutely. Now I will actually give a couple of examples in my next few slides of just that, bringing together similar groups of individuals, because you're right that I do think that's one of our strong suits. Anything else on this question before I know we've got a packed agenda, so I would love to continue with everyone for as long as possible. But
this is Diana Hales with Chatham County. I'm the alternate delegate.
Hi, Diana.
And so good to, it's been 2 years since I've seen you all. And one of the things that I think the COG does very well, in addition to the bringing groups and area regions together. I mean, we had a very recent example in helping provide for whether or not we should, in Chatham County, we should in-house our Council on Aging. And there was, at this point, because we have our wonderful director is resigning, Dennis Streets. And so should it continue as a nonprofit, or should it be onboarded into the government structure of the county? And so that was a very valuable service, because to me, the COG, and this is, I think, one of its strengths, they're not in the governance of the unit of the local government. They are outside. And because they are outside with a tremendous amount of expertise and extremely good staff. They can bring that look from the outside in and really help in a discussion. So I think I would call that extremely important technical assistance. So thanks.
Thank you. Yes, and I will, Lee Worsley, I will give him credit for that fabulous work. I know that was something he worked with the county on. So, and thank you to everyone. I see a couple of comments in the chat as well, and I have been writing them down. So I see feedback on webinars, on some basic topics, and surveys on giving input on areas of interest. So definitely noted. Thank you all for the input. All right, so goal number 2 is to increase capacity on hard to fill or duplicative assistance areas. And so this may not be in some examples that come as a shock to any of your organizations, but recruitment and retention and job market related items have become a huge conversation that we are hearing from local governments, and also in terms of what we're seeing from assistance requests. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about some examples, and then I'm going to talk about what's on the horizon, and then I've got a question. So you can see one of our biggest areas of request recently has been pay and classification studies, seeing if salaries are meeting basically what the market, what is in the market around them. We do this in collaboration with the Piedmont region. Their council has a really strong ability to do these services. And so as you can see, we've assisted a good number of our communities with that recently and are continuing to see more requests for that in the year ahead. We've also been helping with recruitment. I mentioned that in my initial slide in terms of do we have the right person for our growing community. We've seen requests coming in for assistance with town management recruitment. We help Roseville with our planning director's recruitment, just as some examples of recent efforts. So on the horizon in this area, we have a fabulous group. They're your employees of the human resources directors from all of our communities that meet monthly. They also have sort of a listserv that they can communicate with one another on, and is incredibly active because I think they're all really trying to make sure they're being responsive to the market that we're in and the needs of their local governments. And so they've been helping some of our staff think through some really fabulous ways that we might move forward with HR assistance for our local governments. Potential opportunities for collaboration around recruitment, discussion about job boards and ways to promote local government work and make sure you're getting the best talent, and thinking through sort of organizational assessments for communities that are not sure if they're structured the right way anymore based on how much they've grown. And this is more of a generic question, but it's probably helpful to share with one another if anyone is interested in talking about how you are identifying and addressing challenges related to recruitment and retention. We would love to hear about that because we are hearing about that quite a lot.
I will, this is Ken Marshman once again. Actually, at our council meeting last night, it wasn't council meeting, it was a work session. But anyway, we had a report from our Parks and Rec department, and we've been having some challenges there with recruiting, particularly supplemental workers. These are people who are not part-time, who are part-time. So we are looking obviously at some pay variance there. We're going to do, of course, a pay study for all of our employees, and we've done that fairly recently. But so we received information from our new director about some ways to increase the hourly salary of our supplemental workers. We find that we're competing with the lower wage jobs of other entities around us, and so we felt a need to increase our pay, and so we're in the process of doing that. That's, we believe, going to help us in recruiting and maybe getting some of those supplemental positions filled that we've been having difficulty doing that. So we'll know more probably in the next 3 or 4 or 5 months, but we believe we put some things in place that's going to help.
This is Diana in Chatham County again, and this is everybody's problem. We had to close down our recycling centers, half of them, which is also the trash collection and recycling centers across the county, because we didn't have any drivers. Which comes down to, of course, the CDL licenses that you must have in order to drive, to drive one of these trucks. But one of the things, and that was a very visible problem. I mean, there are certain things people don't see, but people in the county are taking their trash. And if there was not a collection center open, I think I got more email on that than just about any other issue. But one of the things our HR has done is implemented increased steps where in some of the positions, like in permitting or anything that requires advanced more education, and your credit units, that instead of waiting for a raise, at some point down your little future path, if you get credential A, you get a step up in pay. And that is already making a difference in Chatham County, so that the effort in the licensing area, the educational, continuing education, if that's part of your job description, as you move up that one step, you automatically are going to find a pay increase now. And I think that was a really solid way to go about retention, because Chatham is like everybody else. You can pay as the most you can, and people will find the next possible jump in their pay if it means leaving. So I mean, I hope that everyone else here on this call has some other really good ideas, because we all are in this together.
Yeah, that's a great example. And I know that's one thing we've heard quite a bit about, very specific skill sets that are hard to recruit. Things like code enforcement and building inspections and things like that have come up quite a bit. So, and I see a couple in the chat as well from Lee County. Awesome. All right, well, I'm going to continue on, but feel free to continue sharing in the chat, and we will definitely make note of any comments. So the third goal is to serve as an external source of guidance, technical expertise, and advocacy. And one of the ways we are doing this is by making sure that all of you are receiving your fair share of investments from all of the investments that are coming from the federal and state governments these days. And American Rescue Plan is really the best example of this. Obviously, this is something that is time sensitive and time limited, and that it will end. So what better place to build up that capacity on behalf of all of you than at the COG, instead of individually building out so many different approaches to the funding and making sure that you have an understanding of that funding. And so we've done that in a variety of ways. Similarly to the HR group, we have a monthly coordination meeting with everyone from your community who is in some way tasked with American Rescue Plan implementation of your specific funds. So they meet with us once a month to receive any updates, talk about challenges or opportunities related to the funding. And they similarly have a listserv where we try and share in as few emails as possible, because everyone gets too many emails, notable changes to the legislation and the rules and reporting and anything they may need to know to make their jobs a little bit easier. We have also just recently finalized an intern who will be starting with us very soon to work in collaboration with the League of Municipalities intern on a joint project that will basically become a database of ARPA projects. So it's long-term going to become a statewide initiative, but we're going to be piloting it in our region. So this will be a way to easily see what everyone is using their ARPA funding for, and to see if there's maybe potential projects that you could implement that have already been done by a peer. We've also started a new program that many of our communities have already joined, our Grant Assistance Administration Program, which is a fairly different approach to grants than we've had in the past at the COG. It's much more of a comprehensive look. So communities, they pay a fee. We try and keep it as minimal as possible.
We should have been doing keeping receipts when we buy aspirin and stuff over the counter.
I'm hearing voices, so I just want to make sure. So anyway, so this is a way for us to help communities really think strategically about funding and project development for funds. So this is both for new funding sources, but also for long-standing efforts like CBDG or BRIC that might take more time to think through applications. And for communities that don't have capacity, they really need that assistance. And then we also have a bi-weekly, I think, so it's every 2 weeks, funding alert that goes out, that's available to any of our communities to sign up for, and you can just receive as regular updates as possible about new funding sources and existing funding sources, and building out our relationship with agencies to make sure we provide you with the best information on that. On the horizon for that is just continuing to strengthen our processes and our capacity to assist with this. So figuring out better ways to think about grants long-term and project development, adding staff. We will be adding at least one new staff member, if not more, to assist specifically with American Rescue Plan through funding we received from the state of North Carolina in the next several months. And that will be to a combination of general administration assistance and probably some more strategic project work. And then continuing to build out a database of templates and policies and processes that might be helpful for all of you as you try to keep track of all the funding opportunities and requirements that are available or before you. And so my question for everyone is, are there other ways that TJCOG should be helping you stay aware and prepared for both new and existing funding and programs from the federal and state government?
I have one example that, and I've come aware of a program. I'm Steve Rao, Morrisville. There's so many of these presentations you attend through the different organizations where you see the same slide saying, you can do this, you can do this. And so I found through a CEO who started a company in Raleigh, he's a tech CEO, and he started a business that's helping small businesses get what's called the employee retention tax credits. So under the CARES Act, you could get up to 70% of your W-2 employees. And it's amazing, just this year, he's been able to get small businesses, dry cleaners, restaurants, sometimes $150,000 to $200,000 or more. But when you talk about the program, no business knows about it. So this is amazing to me how much cash was being left on the table because, so maybe you've already said, but maybe highlighting the programs and making it easier for the businesses in the communities to be able to participate and access the funding. And that's what he does. You just go fill out a form. They take all the information and then they will work and get the process done. And then they'll take a cut, but then they give the business. So it's a good business model. But so anyway, just an example of, I was very disappointed to know that I've gone through the SBA site. There's no anywhere on SBA that says that this program is retroactive. So if you didn't apply during 2020 or 2021, you can still apply. And nobody is in the North Carolina SBA is telling you. So anyway.
No, that's a really good, I'm sure others echo it. I know one of the things we've seen is, I think it's just hard to keep up with all of the, even just reading through funding information, right? And knowing if you're eligible or not. Even if you understand policy, you barely can understand it. And so if you're just a community member or business, it's even more difficult. So that's great feedback. I'm sure he doesn't want us to steal his business model, but if he wants to work in collaboration with us, you can put him in touch with us so we could.
No, absolutely. Or at least maybe have him come in and do that would be great. So.
Awesome. All right, and then finally, goal 4 is to provide cost-effective and locally driven expertise. And really, this one is focused on making the same expertise available to all of our communities. So it's not just to those who have the capacity or the resources. And so I wanted to talk about several examples of this in terms of really kind of democratizing strategy and data and making sure everyone is able to make strategic decisions. These are some examples, and I'll talk a little bit more about how we're going to continue to do that. One, I will not speak on behalf of the town, but we worked with the town of Andrew to do something that we called a growth audit, which was a fabulous way to basically transfer knowledge from some larger, getting a thumbs up from the mayor, from some larger communities. So we partnered with Ben Hitching. Some of you may know him. He used to be the planning director in Chapel Hill and previously in Morrisville, to really work with Andrew and kind of share, he learned the lessons of growth and how can he help work, walk through their processes and talk about the challenges that they see coming and really incorporate that into their plans for the years ahead. And so we facilitated that process with him. So it was, through the COG, and it was hopefully cost effective for the town, but it provided them with this really great resource of someone who's gone through immense growth in the communities that he's worked in. We're also doing that with strategic planning processes for some of our smaller communities. Diana from Chatham County mentioned Lee's work in Chatham County on their organizational assessment, determining if they should incorporate their Council on Aging. And then another great example, that's a very small example, but I think is fabulous. The town of Selma had reached out to us in need of some IT guidance. And we just connected them to the town of Garner's IT staff. And because we're all in the same region and we all want to share expertise, we're able to they've been in contact with Selma, helping them talk through IT needs, providing them with some, insight on what they have done in their organization and what the town might be able to do in theirs. And so what's on the horizon for this goal? You may have seen, if not, I will definitely happily include it in our after action report. We have put out a request for information. We're really looking to build out our network of individuals, not necessarily retired or part-time, but especially those individuals who have a lot of experience and want to continue providing that experience to our region. And we'd like to build out a network of those individuals who would like to work with the COG to make sure all of our communities have that expertise available. And then also building out community engagement expertise, because that's one area that I think we are continuing to hear, and I know Chair Ferguson mentioned earlier, is an area of need. And if anyone would like to share 1 or 2 areas of expertise you do not have internally that you would love to see available through the COG, please feel free to do that now. And I'll say to the point in the chat, Sean is right. Ben Hitchings also used to work for the COG, so we should also claim some credit for his expertise. All right. So planning for the year ahead. So this is really, been a look at what's been going on the past year or so in this area. These are really just reiterating some of the things I've talked about. We're going to continue to strengthen our core offerings, make sure that you're aware of what we do and continue to strengthen those and build out the expertise in those areas. Continuing to focus on that day-to-day work. We've really heard a lot from definitely our smaller communities, but not just those communities, a need for on-site assistance on things like planning and code enforcement and a variety of other skill sets that are just either hard to fill or maybe are only needed some percentage of a person in a community. And then finally, continuing to track emerging issues like this conversation we've had tonight to make sure that we're aware of what's coming in your communities. And a way that you can be included in the planning. I will happily include this in our after action report. It's also gone out to all of your managers and is available to any staff member that would like a copy of it. It's a very concrete way to see the assistance that we are happy to offer your community in the new fiscal year. So if you have any questions from things you see on this document, if you would like a proposal, we are trying to plan our own budget, and we know you're trying to plan your own budget. So this is a perfect time to be communicating with us about those needs. And if there's something on that list that you know is emerging, to please let us know so that we can begin thinking through it. Are there any questions?
All right, well, thank you. This is the heart, in my opinion, of the COG is, yes, we have the federal and state programs, but the technical assistance and capacity building and support at the member level is invaluable. And we really appreciate everyone who has contributed and continues to contribute to this. From here, I'd like to move on to Adam Spillman, who has a presentation utilizing the census data. And so, Adam, if you would take it away, please.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm Adam Spillman. I'm the data strategy coordinator here at the COG, and just wanted to put together a quick series of slides here to show you some of the census resources that are available, building on the previous conversation here, whether you're talking about, some project that your community might be undertaking, or, some of those other things that Elena was discussing. Something that's always good to have before breaking ground or whatever is just this data. And the 2020 census obviously wrapped up a while ago, but the data itself is going through some of its last sort of phases here and being disseminated to the public. And I wanted to show you, if you go to the next slide, first, just some interesting things that came out of this last census, and then getting into some of the data sources themselves. You're not limited anymore to just going to the census webpage. So many people now are utilizing this data, and thankfully for people like you and me, coming up with new ways to visualize that data to make it a little bit easier to digest. Because if you're like me, you don't want to sit down and look at spreadsheets that are hundreds of pages long and utilize a bunch of confusing codes and acronyms and things that maybe you don't understand. So we'll look at a few of those web pages that you can visit on your own. And the purpose for that too is to think about if TJ Cog was to display some of this data ourselves, data that you might have to search through 5 or 6 different websites to find, if we could centralize it in our own sort of TJ Cog personalized way, I would like for you all to start thinking about, what's most useful to you and your communities, and which kinds of visualizations do you like the best? Because, if you're like me, sometimes the fancy stuff, it might be better than looking through spreadsheets, but sometimes too, it can be too overwhelming with the fanciness, and finding that sort of happy median would be nice. So you can see some interesting national facts up there. The first census with online and phone options, the 7.4% increase in population over 2010. I thought it was interesting. This was the second lowest growth rate ever recorded. And so that's since 1790. I believe that's 24 censuses now, the second lowest growth rate ever. 10 most populous states surpassed 10 million residents. The next one was a little confusing to me. The 10 most populous cities that each surpassed 1 million residents. So that means number 10 on the list, San Jose, passed 1 million, so that all 10 cities in the top 10 were above 1 million. So that highlights something I talk about a little bit later. Sometimes when you're digesting this information, sometimes the wording can be a little bit strange and you have to read it a few times or go digging for some context. Of course, one of the big things that comes out of the census is representation. 7 states losing a seat in the House, 5 states gaining a seat, including North Carolina, Texas gaining 2. Down there at the bottom, I'm not going to click the link, and Elena doesn't have to either, but the census does have some interesting sort of historical references. If you're sort of a history buff like I am, that you can read details from previous censuses if you're interested. For example, in 1790, it was US or local marshals that collected the data, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, they keep that kind of stuff for us. Next slide. So in North Carolina, and this number gets thrown around pretty often in local news, so you've probably seen it before, our growth rate outpacing the national average, or what our population actually grew from. A little less prevalent is knowing that 51 counties lost population and 49 gained. Wake County officially surpassed Mecklenburg to become the most populous. And Johnston County ended up being the fastest growing county, edging out Brunswick, and I guess that's the Wilmington area. And so if you look at any of those sort of color-coded maps with a growth and losses, the fastest growth, Triangle, Charlotte, and Wilmington, and largest losses in the Sandhills and the northeastern part of the state, that little corner close to Virginia. Next slide. Probably in this entire slideshow, the thing that I had to research the most because it made the least amount of sense to me was that in 10 years, the population of children only grew by 2,654 individuals. So in other words, almost the entire population gain that we had was in the adult population. So sometimes you just have to kind of sit and think about this sort of thing, or look at charts that break it down by age. You have to think of the population that crosses that threshold from child to adult. But then, frankly, looking at charts, the biggest loss in population there is between ages 0 and 4, which goes back to all of those studies and things that you see talking about just the birth rate essentially cratering. And then your other age groups, 5 to 9, 10 to 14, et cetera, grew a little bit, but it wasn't enough to offset the losses in that 0 to 4. The next most interesting thing, I think, was the multiracial, people identifying as multiracial increasing 161%. Other race growing 207%. And then the only ethnic group that lost population was American Indian, which decreased 7%. And I think I read that, even though I didn't put in the show here, that 7% represented, I can't remember if it was 6,000 or 8,000 individuals, but it was pretty substantial. And then this is another example at the bottom there, this diversity index. I believe it's been in previous 2010 and 2000 census, but I think it was called something else, but it's kind of an interesting figure. The chance that two people chosen at random would be from different racial or ethnic groups. And I've seen conflicting numbers on that too, where the North Carolina average was 57.9, but I also saw another number that said, I think it was 63.1 or 61.1. So you just really have to make sure that you're getting your numbers from an official source like the census itself, the state demographer. Sometimes you might detect little, not substantial, but small mathematical errors if you're getting your roll numbers from ABC News or some local TV station or something. If it's a figure that interests you, you can research that particular figure and go back to the actual source data to see if maybe they made a mistake in dividing or multiplying to get a percentage or something. Next slide. I just thought this was fun because sometimes when you're digging for census data or you're on the demographer page or whatever, it's kind of like Wikipedia. You see these hyperlinks embedded in sentences and you go like on this little scavenger hunt. 3 hours later, you've clicked on 200 different things. And if you're like me, you end up looking at something that says that North Carolina has led national sweet potato production since 1971. And then when you dig a little bit deeper and find a map, you find that the bulk of that production falls squarely in TJCOG territory. And even if that's not interesting enough for you, then you dig into the actual money involved and see, hundreds of millions of dollars. And even since 2019, where you see all of these, sort of dismal statistics ever since COVID came around, where just everything came crashing down. But then you see an increase here, 15.7% over 2019, and then the value of that particular crop. And actually that top line there, Raleigh is the second fastest growing metro in the US behind Austin. Probably should have been in the previous slide, but I wanted to make sure that I did get that in there. And then I didn't make that map. That's from the demographer's office. But next. So I'm not sure, Elena, how you flip the screen over to me or what I'm supposed to click on here. Let's see. So share screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this one. So that list of links that you were looking at there basically boils down to these pages here. Here was the one I just had pulled up about, the informational pages where you could go through each census every 10 years and look at some of the history involved, the people that recorded it, the questions that they actually asked. Here were the questions on the first census in 1790. Like I said, if that's interesting to you, those resources are available. When I was talking about data visualization, some of the stuff that you'll see, like this, for example, if it'll refresh, you'll have these sort of interactive graphics, these dashboards where you can click on, exactly the county that you're interested in. And then this changes in real time. And then you can tweak these various menus on the page to find the answer to whatever question you might have. Whereas the old way might have looked more like this, which still serves its purpose. If you like to compare sort of tabular data, in columns, this might be sort of the more old school way, but still useful. And all of these different options, whether it's list versus, a graphic that you can click on is a little bit different. And, other page, North Carolina has its own census page. It's not just census.gov like I was on previously. You have census.nc.gov. And, TJCOG on its webpage has a census site that links to basically everything I'm showing you now. It's just, you still have that one-stop shopping available to you. And of course, the demographer's office, OSBM, like I mentioned. And you also have, if you actually just want to download the spreadsheets themselves, more often than not, they're sort of old school, like CSV files or whatever. The only problem with doing it that way is oftentimes the data, depending on these, the actual information that you're looking for, sometimes you have to have a whole separate list of codes to decode the government information. Like, for example, if you were looking for, educational attainment, Hispanic male, age 18 to 24, something very specific, then it's not going to say that in the column header. It's going to have a code like HO1OC or something like that. You're going to have a separate sort of metadata file in order to figure out, what exactly it is I'm looking at. It's nice to have the raw data, but it's also nice to have it, visualized, sort of nice and tidy, like this. And so anyway, I threw a media example up here too, just because there was some information here that conflicted with the state demographer's office. And I think I traced it to just the division error. But again, that kind of goes back to just making sure you go back to the original source instead of depending on, in this case, a reporter or whoever going to the original source and then you counting on them as a source. Sometimes it's better just to go grab the numbers yourself, depending on what your end goal there actually is. But I know I was probably talking really fast and that was a lot of information to throw at you guys in a short period. I'm going to try to turn my screen share off here. And let's see, stop sharing. And I would be happy to answer any questions with the caveat that I'm good at finding data and displaying data. That doesn't mean that I'm always correct at interpreting data or trends. Is not necessarily my strong suit.
Adam, I do have a question, and you began your presentation asking us if there was any visualizations or data, whatever. Has that offer been extended to staff, local government staff? Because I'm thinking that, the way they consume data to present to us, that they would be the greatest beneficiary. So whether it's through the convocation of the mayors or some of the other convening groups that the COG is involved in.
Yeah, and a lot of this information, a lot of local government pages, whether it's a city, town, county, what have you, they'll often have a section like TJ COG has a section regarding census data. And those pages, they're always a little bit different, the data that they display or what's important to the COG or your local governments or whatever. My question was more, and I would love to reach out to, whoever is responsible for that information on those local web pages and have that conversation. But, we just wanted, TJ COG is going to have that new data repository website. And if we wanted to have census data in sort of a supporting fashion there, we wanted to make sure, because it was a new website, we didn't necessarily want to go sort of old school with the way everything looked, but we also didn't want the graphics and, interactive stuff to be overboard either. We just really want to know what, number one, what everybody's interested in, and number two, when you're searching for data or using data or downloading data, how can we make that easier for you, more accessible, more easier to understand, instead of having to navigate, a half dozen different sort of government, .gov sort of web pages. We want it to be a win-win situation where you get more information faster, but you're also able to sort of digest it easier. And some of those visualizations do a really good job. Some of them, they missed the mark just a little bit, but yeah, like you said, those people at the local level, that would be a great conversation to have with them, kind of pick their brains. And I would love to start, getting emails out of the blue with questions like this. And, if you want to pass along my contact information to anybody you work with, I would love that.
Absolutely. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much. And this information is important, and we definitely do need to take a look at how we can reach at the staff level if we can save our municipal staff and local government staff from data safaris. That is a real benefit. So we will move on, and Suchi and Sean will be presenting on our proposal invitations for the transportation choices. So take it away.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I am working tonight out of my partner's office, which is an uncomfortable transition for me. I'm used to having multiple monitors and everything set up. So thanks for bearing with me here. But this should be a quick hitter. My name is Sean Flaherty. I'm the principal planner here at Triangle J Council of Governments. Suchi Gupta is really the boots on the ground for our Triangle Transportation Choices program, which for those of y'all who have been around for a while would recall is rebranded as our Triangle Transportation Demand Management, or TDM program. So what is Transportation Demand Management? It's essentially, as it sounds, working towards demand management rather than supply. So in quick terms, knowing that as congestion, as population growth continues, as Adam mentioned, us being one of the fastest growing regions in the country, we can't build our way out of this, right? So let's work on encouraging alternative modes to the single occupancy vehicle commute rather than looking for funding sources that frankly just are not there. So again, this should hopefully just be, a receive as information item on this evening's agenda, and appreciate the time. But again, this is the 15th year of our Transportation Demand Management Program, regional program here at Triangle J, which has received national recognition from both the U.S. Department of Transportation, U.S. Department of Energy, National Renewable Energy Lab, and NCDOT. And of course, is part of the policy priorities for both of our region's MPOs. So our fiscal year 2023 request for proposals is open. Fiscal year 23, of course, being the state fiscal year, so running July 1st through June 30th of 2023. I will drop the link to all this information in the chat here in just a minute. Many of the folks on the call here today, your local communities are already long-standing participants in this regional effort, where we take congestion mitigation air quality CMAQ funds from both MPOs and also state dollars from the Integrated Mobility Division at NCDOT, and require cost share from participants to encourage alternative modes, alternatives to the single occupancy vehicle commute. And in addition to just reminding folks on the call that might not already be part of this regional initiative, that this opportunity is available, wanted to make a couple of points that we're really excited about. This is the first time that the program is offering a second request for proposals, a second RFP, which is being piloted as part of both TJ Coggs, but also the Triangle Transportation Choices Program's commitment to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. So this is a special RFP that is requesting applications from North Carolina-based grassroots levels, nonprofits, community-based organizations to work with equity priority communities such as low-income, marginalized, minority, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and otherwise disadvantaged or vulnerable communities to promote safe and affordable access to commute options such as transit, walking, biking, carpool, and vanpool. So what we're trying to do is understand that a lot of these smaller grassroots organizations really don't have the capacity or maybe experience to unlock what I think we can all agree is somewhat of a lockbox when you talk about government funded opportunities. So I'm personally very proud of our staff here at Triangle J for piloting this second special RFP this year, and would encourage folks here today in your leadership roles to think about those types of organizations in your community that might take advantage of even applying this year, whether successful or not. We do have a bit of a rollover of funds due to COVID from our previous funding cycle. So we're very excited to look at some innovative opportunities. Another thing that I might mention is, in the transportation space, as we think about electric vehicles and electrification of transportation, obviously the gas tax issue comes up, right? And I think Governor Cooper actually commented in a article during an interview with the Charlotte Observer either yesterday or the day before that gas tax revenue will continue to decrease. So what does that mean for revenues for transportation? Well, my personal opinion, as a transportation planner, is that a vehicle miles traveled tax is inevitable. So to the degree that our region can help our communities understand that we already have existing alternatives to driving is very important. So I think that that's something to keep in mind as someone that's practices long range planning. So again, we'll drop the link of all this information before I nerd out any longer on this topic in the chat. But did want to take the opportunity during the Board of Delegates meeting today to remind everyone that this opportunity is available. And again, this is our 15th year in partnership with NCDOT and both the Durham Chapel Carver MPO and the Capital Area MPO in continuing this work and reducing vehicle miles traveled. Last year alone, we reduced over 58 million vehicle miles traveled in the region and are on track to do so again. So appreciate everyone's continued support and hope that we can continue to grow the program. You will see in the link that we did do a informational session for folks that are regular applicants and for many new applicants, and we'll be doing so again shortly. I don't have the date on my mind right now, but you'll see it in the link. But there's a recording of the previous informational session that you can view or share. And I'm happy to answer any questions, Madam Chairman, or for the good of the order.
Right. If folks would use your reaction hand, the electronic hand, as I can't see everyone. Any questions for Sean?
And obviously no questions is a good sign, but I would like to say, outside of the informational sessions that we have made available, please contact myself, obviously Lee or Elena. We're happy to work with you and your planning staff or members of your community, especially again, any of those diversity, equity, and inclusion, smaller nonprofits in your community that could be encouraged to take a part of this effort. We're here at any hour of the business hours, I'll say that.
Well, thank you very much, Sean. This sounds like a great opportunity and very much appreciate it. And with that, we'll move on. It is that time of year. We will have a new chair come our new fiscal year. Historically, the nominating committee has included past chairs. And currently Mayor Don and Mayor Curran and Rebecca and Jennifer, if you would be willing, I would love to include you in this committee and appoint you. And of course, if there are others that wish to participate, I do not want to exclude. And I thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate it. Thank you, Rebecca. Excellent. Mayor Ronnie, is that all right with you? And I do see from Tim Forrest. And Ronnie. All righty. We have our committee. I thank you. And so if it pleases this board, I wish to appoint Mayor Ronnie Rebecca, Jennifer, and Tim.
Just to note for the minutes, we also, Pamela Baldwin also has passed, she's a past chair.
Thank you. I am so sorry. Forgive me, Pam.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
You have served well, and we don't want to misrepresent your contribution. So thank you, everyone. And with that, it is the consent agenda. I trust that everyone has taken a look, and does anyone wish to remove an item for further discussion? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda, to approve.
So move.
Second, Deidreana Freeman and Durham.
Okay, with the motion being put forth by Carol Haney and seconded by Deidreana Freeman, is there any further discussion? All right, if we can proceed with our roll call vote, please. And again, we will have each local government's name called out, and the delegate is the voting member, please. If I could receive assistance on the roll call.
All right, so I will call out each county district. Aberdeen.
Mulaney votes aye.
Today I want to wish everyone a happy Indian.
Andrew.
Aye.
Apex.
Aye.
Archer Lodge. Benson. Broadway. Cameron. Carborough. Carthage. Carrie.
Hi, this is Jennifer Robinson.
Chapel Hill. Chatham County.
Aye, this is Diana Hales.
Thank you. Clayton. City of Durham.
Aye, this is Deidreana Freeman.
Thank you. Durham County.
Heidi Carter votes aye.
Thank you. Fuquay Varina. Garner.
Garner votes aye.
Hillsborough.
Hillsborough votes aye.
Holly Springs.
Holly Springs votes aye.
Johnson County.
Johnson County votes aye.
Kenly. Nightdale.
Nightdale votes aye.
Lee County.
Kirk Smith, aye.
Micro. Moore County. Morrisville.
Aye. Steve Rao. Alternate.
Orange County.
Sally Green, aye.
Thank you. Pine Level. Pinehurst.
Pinehurst, Jeff Morgan votes aye.
Thank you. Pittsburgh.
Pittsboro, Pamela Baldwin, aye.
you. Princeton. Raleigh. Robbins. Roseville.
Roseville votes aye.
Thank you. Sanford.
Rebecca Salmon, Sanford, aye.
Thank you. Selma.
Byron McAllister, Selma, aye.
Thank you. Siler City. Smithfield.
Andy Moore, aye.
Seven Pines.
Carol Haney, aye.
Bass. Wake County.
Susan Evans, aye.
They're doing roll call.
Wake Forest.
Wake Forest, aye.
Wendell.
Wendell votes aye.
Wilson's Mills. Zebulon. Anyone I may not have captured. We have a vote.
All right, thank you very much. And with that, Executive Director Worsley, do you have a report for us this evening?
Yes, Madam Chair, I've got a short report. As we welcome our new delegates, I also want to, and alternates, welcome you again. If there's anything that we can do for you, don't hesitate to call or email, and don't feel like you need to call me or email me directly if you have a question and you know the staff member that you need to ask. Feel free to call them directly. We're happy to have you call or inquire anytime. So just again, wanted to welcome all our new members and alternates. I think tonight's a good indication that we have a lot of things going on. The COG reaches local governments in the region in a lot of different ways. And for our new members and existing members, if you want a refresher or you want to learn more about the COG, we're having our Delegate Orientation before our Executive Committee meeting. That's February the 23rd. It'll be from 4 to 6 p.m. Chantel will be getting out more information on the orientation shortly. But we call it New Delegate Orientation, but it is certainly not limited to just new delegates. Any delegate that wants to come and get a refresher or about the COG and what we're doing, you are more than welcome. Speaking of Chantel, I just wanted to give to the whole board a shout out to Chantel. She has, as you all know, she's I'll still call her our new clerk to the board, our new staff member still. And this month, she basically did the entire agenda process on her own. And she called roll, she got the agenda out. She got it all to me to review. She welcomed new delegates that were here, are part of the board, and she just did an outstanding job. It's an important job serving as clerk, and she just really did great. Even to tonight, I worried that we had some new delegates, and I sent her a message about 30 minutes before the board meeting. I said, "Oh, we've got some new delegates from this community and this community. We didn't know about it," and they were like, "We got it. Already done." I was like, that's awesome. So thank you, Chantel, for all the great work. We're glad to have you part of the team. Staying on the board topics, we do have a vacancy on our executive committee. So our executive committee is a subset of the board, and they meet in February and September and June. And executive committee members, the county delegate, you are automatically a member of the executive committee. Officers are automatically a member of the executive committee. And then the municipal delegates within a county, they get together and decide who the municipal rep is going to be for the executive committee. And with the change of delegate in Pinehurst, we have a vacancy now for the Moore County municipal delegate to the executive committee. So anybody from Moore County on the call tonight, will be reaching out to you all to ask you all to sort of caucus and decide who you want your municipal delegate to be on the executive committee. So just a heads up that we'll be reaching out to you shortly. The last thing I wanted to announce, and I don't think he's on tonight, but John Hodges Koppel has let us know that he intends to retire from the COG in April. John has served close to 30 years with the organization, and he's our Metropolitan Planning Director and has really contributed quite a bit to our region and to the organization. We're certainly sad to see him go, but we're also celebratory that he is retiring and moving on to the next phase in his life and career. And so we'll talk more about how we'll celebrate John's service to the organization, but just wanted to let you know that John has indicated that he is retiring in April. So with that, Madam Chair, that completes my report. Thanks again for all the support from the board, and we look forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, at one point you did mention earlier during the audit that you wanted to elaborate. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about from that?
No, ma'am. Just the fact that the audit was late was the item that I wanted to elaborate on, and you all approved the audit contract amendment already. And then the other thing we'll need to do, we have to submit a letter with the audit that's signed by a majority of the board, and we're working through the mechanics of getting to you all to get that done, and we'll be in touch on that one. But that was it. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I do not have a chair report this evening, and the round the region question is, given it's the new year, what innovative projects or practices is your local government piloting or implementing this year? And I will try to do if I can do this. I actually am not able to see the full gallery. So Chantel, if I can help, if you can help me, and let's just go round the region with whoever is on your top left corner.
All right, I have Pittsburgh.
Okay, thank you. One thing that is planned, well, that's already been somewhat implemented is electronic packets in reference to our agenda. We all have tablets, and our packets are loaded, including the preliminary plats that's loaded onto our tablets, and the plats and all of that, and any documents are loaded onto our SharePoint. And that actually reduces a lot of paper, and we can see everything directly electronically. I think that will be a great asset in reference to eliminating a lot of paper and getting everything a little quicker. So I think that that is actually a good idea, and I compliment our town manager for coming up with that, Chris Kennedy. So John, if you would like to say something.
Thank you, Ms. Pamela. Nothing additional to report, but I'm just very pleased to be here and to witness my first such meeting, and looking forward to serving as an alternate.
All right, next.
Chatham County.
Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Mark Wilson. I came in at the end of the first presentation and listened to all the others. I want to comment on what Archer Lodge is doing. We received a $50,000 grant from the state, and that will be used in our new park that we are getting ready, I hope, to break ground, and because we put out the bids for. So we're just moving on, and we're hoping that everybody else's projects will continue to move on also. Thank you.
Thank you. And
this
next.
is Diana. Diana Hales from Chatham County. And two things. Commissioner Jim Crawford, who was the delegate to this board, has resigned, and so we will be appointing the remaining 4 members of the board will be appointing a replacement in February. So at this point, I will serve still as the alternate until we have a new member on board and choose our committee assignment. So just so you all know. And in terms of innovative projects, I'm really delighted to say that our affordable housing task force has managed an agreement with a subdivision developer that is going to allow 11 units out of the project that will be targeted specifically for affordable housing, and not just targeted, but it will be operated through one of the housing trust fund, or I'm not sure what the correct name is, but it's a group out of Durham that does affordable housing. And this is the first time that we will be able to get into or have a presence, or any presence at all, in wealth creation from the affordable housing standpoint. Affordable housing a lot of times is rental, of course, and or habitat, but habitat, you don't retain a resale interest in the house. So this is really exciting, and we are very, very happy that the county was able to work with a very engaged developer that wanted to make sure that there could be some affordable housing and wealth creation in the subdivision. So that is that was a really big win for Chatham. And the other thing in terms of our county, and we've established, or in the process, or they should be meeting shortly, a task force on wastewater infrastructure. Our county does not have wastewater. Our 3 towns do have wastewater, but not in the county, the rural county, and so depended on other types of private systems. And there are a lot of citizens very interested and engaged in how we move forward as the county grows. And we are experiencing tremendous, explosive growth in the non-incorporated parts of the county. So this will be, this is a very good, very timely task force, and looking forward to hearing what they come up with at the end of their rigorous investigation and debate. So that's it, what I have. Thanks.
Thank you. And next.
Orange County.
Did you say Orange County? Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to highlight the countywide racial equity framework that Orange County has just adopted in collaboration with all the jurisdictions within it. So it's exciting work that's intended to, a lot of staff work has already gone into this, conversations among the staffs across the jurisdictions. And we are all members of the Government Alliance on Race and Equity. And there's a lot of help that comes through that, through that. And really the intention is to normalize racial equity across everything that we do. So that's we've been talking about and planning for this for a long time, but we are now in the implementation stage. So that's exciting.
Thank you. And next.
Wake County.
I don't know of anything at the moment that we're doing that's terribly innovative. We're busy, busy, busy. I've been consumed most of the last 6 weeks. We're trying to respond to the tremendous demand for COVID testing in Wake County and operating quite a few sites and working with the state, who's also helped us open some additional sites. So if any counties need any advice about how to do that well, I'd love to put you in touch with our Health and Human Services people, because they have really rallied, and we are at our 5 Health and Human Services county sites, we are testing about 13,000 people a day, but then we have additional sites that the state is operating in Wake County as well. So we're still just having to put a lot of our focus, our staff's focus, on dealing with the pandemic, but we'll be having our board planning retreat. We had to postpone it due to the weather and some illness. It was supposed to be earlier this week, so we'll be having that in a few weeks, and then we'll be planning for new and exciting things for the coming year. Thank you.
Okay, next.
Apex.
So in Apex, we have an innovative, exciting new member of our council, Ed Gray, who is the alternate and I think still on the call. But as far as programs go, we're undergoing a review of our lighting ordinances and trying to implement some dark sky ordinances that will improve the night sky and reduce the light pollution. And in addition to that, we are installing a bunch of street lights that are LEDs, they're more efficient, but also will meet that dark sky ordinance. So hopefully this will be a success, and the region maybe hopefully can learn from this, and we can all together improve the light pollution in our area. Thanks.
Oh, I would love to hear more about that if we could connect offline.
Sure, sounds good. I'll be in
Thank you.
touch.
All right. Next.
Wendell.
Thank you very much. I will just say that we were fortunate today. We had Congresswoman Deborah Ross here in Wendell today, so that was exciting. We were able to share an ARPA project with her. We did a walking tour of downtown with our executive director of the Chamber of Commerce. So that was exciting to have her here. We had an organizational retreat a few weeks back. Not much turnover in our board, so that made it a little easier. Obviously, we had 2 commissioners reelected. We do have a newly elected commissioner. He is on the call with us. So I guess I've been promoted, I should say, to the delegate. I appreciate Commissioner Eatman being on the call, his willingness to participate as the alternate with the COG. So thank you, Deans, for being here. I will say a couple of the boxes we fit in. We're obviously growing and transitioning in Wendell. We have development pressures for sure with our growth, vision, and coordination. So I look forward to reaching out to the COG. Obviously transportation is always a big piece. Personally, I know that affordable housing is an issue that we're going to be dealing with. That we have space in Wendell, so I hope to, learn from others, learn from the COG, and I appreciate everything. So that's what's going on in Wendell.
All right. Thank you. Next.
City of Durham.
I've been really sitting trying to think. This is Deidreana Freeman in Durham, and trying to think of something innovative. And I will say that our new mayor has taken a very innovative approach to trying to address the gang violence and the shootings that have been going on in our city. And so we haven't seen as many shootings, crossing my fingers, knocking on wood and everything else, but there's still a lot more work to go. So outside of that, that's all I got. Thank you.
All right, next.
Carrie.
All righty. Hey, everybody. I'd say one of the innovative things that we're working on in Cary is around flood management. We are installing sensors in bodies of water and in flood-prone areas. And those sensors are identifying things such as water depth and flow rate, soil saturation, and other elements so that we can actively predict in real time where and when flooding will occur, and hopefully be able to protect our citizens better from flooding.
Wow. Thank you. Next.
Roseville.
Who was that you mentioned? Was it Roseville? Okay. Yeah, first, thank you, Diana, for sharing about Jim. As some of you may know, Jim served on this group for several years. He actually was chair, and we all enjoyed Jim, and he did a very good job. And I hadn't heard that he was retiring or retired already. So thank you for sharing that, and we will certainly miss him. So and he did a very good job for Chatham County, I think, and so thanks for sharing that. I don't know if it's innovating, but I think it's something that we really had talked about and needed for a while. Our commissioners were looking at to make sure that we take a good look at diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we got a new HR director about 6-8 months ago, and she's been putting a program together. So one of the things that started late last year, but has really got into it since the first year, is training all our employees, even the police department and everyone on those things. I think our board is committed to go through the training. So we really feel like it's going to serve a great need in our community. I think for us to do that and be involved in that. And some of the, I guess, more innovative things we're doing is we took a good look at our recruiting and hiring process to make sure that was up to new innovative standards on recruiting, especially diversity recruiting, because sometimes you really have to take a good effort and work hard in doing that. So I think we made a lot of improvements in that area, and we went as far as all of our vendors or contractors or anything like that. We put together a new screening process for those to have to make sure the diversity and inclusion is considered in those interviews and in those type things. So that's just something that we put in a big effort on. This year has to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Are you doing your training through GARE or REI, or do you know?
Yeah, our HR director has experience in that, so she's taking the lead in doing the training. And it's I haven't been to the training yet. That she's scheduling it for the mayor and the commissioners in the next couple of months. But yeah, I think it's very inclusive. It covers a lot of those topics.
Thank you. And who's next?
Dale.
Hi, yes. So we are currently in a planning stage for several things. So hope to have some new innovative things to come out of that. We are just wrapping up our Parks and Rec plan, and we have just started our transportation plan, and have great conversations of some things that we want to look at and do by way of that. But I know it was mentioned a little bit earlier as far as moving digitally with some of our agendas and plans for meetings and different things like that. And in our last meeting, we approved working with a vendor to start using SharePoint and start using those services. So we haven't done that yet, but we're in the process of making that transition and doing some things to where we can communicate a little bit more digitally. We can share files, share information. I heard there's others that are doing that. So we're hoping to be able to be on that page and it to be a little bit easier, less paper handed around. One thing that we did do that we've been talking about for a while and have officially implemented it, and I'm so excited about this program, especially we're talking, and I want to hear more about what we can do with hiring, especially when it comes to our law enforcement. But one thing that we have implemented is our cadet program. And all of our law officers, well, all of them anyway, have to go through the basic law enforcement training before they could be hired on. But what we have done is we've hired 2 law enforcement officers before the training, and we are paying for them to go through the training and then to be officers with us once they complete the training. So we're still looking for different things that we can do in that area to recruit, but that seemed to be a great start, and I'm excited about that. And we're looking for other areas to start lower, even going down to the high schools, and how can we do internships and programs there to get people interested into law enforcement, and especially minorities, to bring them into public service. So I am excited about that program, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more coming up soon. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Who's next?
Aberdeen.
Did you say Aberdeen?
Yes, ma'am.
I can't. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Aberdeen.
Okay, Aberdeen. Yes. One of the things that we did last year, we purchased the old Aberdeen Elementary School, and it has a beautiful auditorium and a nice gym. There's going to be a lot of work that we have to do, but it's going to really be a great asset for Aberdeen, and I'm looking forward to seeing the finished product. I think that's very important to us. And I also wanted to thank you for the presentation. I'm looking forward to getting that PowerPoint, because I try to share that with the other with the Aberdeen commissioners. So, and since this is the first time we met this year, I hope you guys, this is a great year for all of us.
Thank you. And next, a lot of stuff going around the region.
Selma.
Did you say Selma?
Yes, correct.
Yes. Hey, this is Byron McAllister, Selma, North Carolina. We have jumped into the 21st century head first. Finally, here in Selma, we are updating our software to better meet the needs of our customers, particularly on the billing side with our utilities, and making it so that customers can and we can track real-time data with our electric uses as far as our new NextGrid electric meters are concerned. We are also implementing, I believe it was mentioned earlier, about using the tablets for town meetings and getting information. We're actually working on implementing that at the beginning of FY23, of course, to save on paper and again, make it easier to share information. And with that sharing information piece, we are getting better use out of our cloud systems here in Selma. We actually have a training on Friday for council and a few staff members to better understand how we can use our cloud systems to share data in real time and communicate in a more efficient manner. So we are definitely trying to lean into software to improve the efficiency of our town operations. Thank you.
Thank you. And who's next?
Smithfield.
Good evening. So I'm not sure how innovative it is, right? But excited about it regardless. We are currently working on a pedestrian plan right now, and we're in the process of holding public meetings to get input from our citizens. You know, the last 2 years, everybody's been cooped up in their homes, and with the growth that I talk about the last several meetings or the last couple of years during these meetings that Smithfield is experiencing, we're always concerned about traffic, you know, vehicles, but we tend not to think about pedestrians and so forth. And the last 2 years of being cooped up, I think it's time to really start to looking at that connectivity between our neighborhoods, not only between our neighborhoods, but between our neighborhoods and our commercial developments, as well as our parks and rec areas and our downtowns. And so we are working right now on a pedestrian plan, and we're seeking input from our citizens how we can make our community more connected and allow people to be outside and enjoy the great outdoors. So very excited about that. Did want to say thank you to the COG for your assistance with the hiring process for our new fire chief. We have hired a new fire chief, and that was a little bit of a different process than we've gone through in the past in Smithfield. We have not gone outside of our department in 50 years of hiring a new fire chief. So that was a bit uncomfortable at stages with some of our volunteer firemen, as well as some of our permanent firemen. But just want to say thank you to the COG for your professional services there, which made that process so much easier. And we did hire a new chief from Wilson, and it's turned out so far to be a great choice. So again, thank you for that. And also for your assistance with interpreting how we can spend the American Rescue Funds. We're meeting on that now and trying to determine how we will be spending those funds. But we're looking mostly right now at putting those funds towards infrastructure. And when I say infrastructure, sidewalks, drainage issues, as well as water and sewer needs. So thanks again to the COG for your assistance there. And then I did want to just give a shout out to Byron, the new mayor in Selma, our neighbors in Selma. We are going to miss Mayor Oliver serving on this board, but Byron, welcome, and look forward to working with you as a neighboring community as we go through this process. So welcome to the board, Byron.
Thank you. And who'd like to be next?
Holly Springs.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Holly Springs.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Holly Springs, Tim Forrest. My first meeting, so I'm just listening. I have nothing really to report tonight.
So there's nothing innovative or new happening in Holly Springs?
Well, like the entire region, we are definitely growing by leaps and bounds. And actually, I think this month we crossed over 50,000 residents, which puts us in a whole new category. For those that remember Holly Springs, even 10 years ago, that would have been thought of being unheard of. But we're hit with huge growth issues, infrastructure, water, sewer. We have a lot of things going on, but we're just trying to get our hands around right now with the new council, the ARP funds and the state, and what we do. We have a retreat coming up in February, which will enable me to understand better how we plan to get after it as a collective group.
A lot happening. Thank you. All right, who's next?
Lee County?
Yes, since we met back in November, we opened our mountain bike trail in San Lee Park, and that now has 5 skill levels. And we had a representative of the Southern Off-Road Bicycle Association come all the way up from Alabama, and they had the opportunity to run the courses, and they said it's one of the best courses in the Southeast. So if you're a mountain bike enthusiast or know of anybody, send them down to Lee County, San Lee Park. It's right off the bypass. You can't miss it. Innovative project that Lee County is going to initiate this year. On Monday night's meeting, we just established our youth council. We have a group of motivated young people who are going to be spending the next year going through the process of being sanctioned by the state of North Carolina as an official youth council of Lee County. So that is all I have. Thank you.
Very cool. Thank you. Who's next?
Morrisville?
Thank you. We're excited. We got ranked as an All-America city last year and got ranked one of the top cities to live in North Carolina. I think the most exciting implementation going on really has to do with the application use of smart technology. And one area is our smart shuttle program. So we today have an on-demand transit service in Morrisville where you use an app. It's powered by an app called Via, a company called Via, and it will take you to 15 nodes in Morrisville. And it's just fascinating. Our 16-year-old uses it when his mom isn't home and I'm busy to go take her to the park to play tennis, and then takes it back. So it's taking a lot of traffic off the roads. And it's a perfect example of how smart technology can be used to enhance the quality of life for citizens. So we're also doing a lot of stuff with sensors in our parks. We just won the Clean Tech Innovation Award last year, our IT committee. And so I think it's really exciting with more broadband coming in for all of us that we can leverage these technologies. And so that's exciting. And then the second thing that's exciting is cricket. So we actually have signed an agreement to get a $2.5 million investment into our cricket fields in Church Street Park through an agreement with American Cricket Enterprises, so we can host World Cup matches, T2 qualifier events in Morrisville. So it's, my parents are from India, but my colleague Huntsville Garamella grew up playing cricket, but I'm just learning the game. But it's pretty amazing, and so we're really excited about that, and we're going to invest some money as well. But those are 2 important things. So come visit us and watch some cricket in the spring. Thank you. It's good to see everyone virtually. Hopefully we'll see each other in person again.
Thank you. Always something happening.
Yeah.
Who's next?
Garner?
Hey, yes, Garner. We're really going to be focusing on implementing our voters' confidence in passing a bond referendum that had basically 4 questions on it. And one of those was a parks and recreational bonds. We purchased 2 new properties and are in the preliminary planning stages. And Steve, it's interesting, you mentioned cricket. One of the spaces on one of our parks, we're talking about whether or not to create sort of a cricket space. We met with some of the folks who are involved with your program over there, and that's still a topic of discussion. So,
I thought we had an exclusive on cricket. You can't do that. Just joking.
Well,
whatever we can do to help, it's great. It's a great
Sure, they've been helpful so far. Yeah,
absolutely.
And so, other items under that were street and sidewalk improvement bonds that'll allow us to catch up on some of our sidewalk building and make our town more walkable. And also some street improvements that are desperately needed. Public services facilities are going to allow us to build a new fire station in conjunction with Wake County EMS, who will partner with us and share that facility. And maybe less exciting, but something very necessary, are some storm water bonds that our citizens passed as well. So we're really excited that our citizens have voted really overwhelmingly in support of these. We think it's a a good sign that they support their local government and have confidence in us. So we don't plan to disappoint, and we're going to dig into those things and start the process. We've just selected a project manager for this, and so that's going to give us a great and a good start. Thank you.
Wow, lots to keep an eye on out in your region. Who's next?
Pinehurst.
Sorry about that. Working with a mute button. For my first meeting, doing more listening than anything else, but what we have going on right now in Pinehurst is a lot of traffic issues, a lot of growth problems. We say growth, I guess that's a first world problem. But just making sure we have the proper infrastructure that we developed. So traffic going through our areas, parking issues that we're addressing. Also a big surge of short-term rentals. And so something I'll throw out to the group here that when you talk about support on this, there's been lots of folks that have been reaching out to different or getting information for different townships in North Carolina on how they've dealt with short-term rentals. And that would be something that would be of assistance to us, because there is some stuff that comes from the state of North Carolina that basically empowers the short-term rentals. I mean, we've got a lot of constituents who are frustrated with it, and trying to get to the truth of the matter of is it just the activities that short-term renters are doing versus the rental itself, the property rights and balancing that out. But ultimately, we've seen a big increase in that, and a lot of our voters are upset about that. And we're trying to come up with a rational way forward, and obviously a legal way forward with our township, village, and the state of North Carolina. So that's about what I've got here in Pinehurst.
There's a lot of places I'll be interested in, and I think many people will be interested in what you guys learn. Who's next?
That may be all. Is there anyone that I may have missed?
Well, I will go. In Hillsborough, we are at work on our comprehensive sustainability plan. Our wastewater and water treatment folks shared at a couple meetings ago what they're up to, and I would do them injustice because there are technical things that it is beyond my understanding. The bottom line is that they were able to save the town thousands of dollars by coming up with some creative ways of addressing needs without as many chemicals, and the way that they have maintained equipment, and so that the life of the equipment is been extended significantly longer, and with high quality usage. And so I just have to get a shout out to those guys. That's an area of it doesn't get a lot of airplay. It's not sexy, but it is a huge benefit to our community and water quality. And is there anyone we have missed? All right, then. Well, thank you. A lot is going on in the region. This is one of a great way that we pick up on what we're doing. Is there any other business? All right, then. Well, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, I so move.
All righty.
Second. I'll second. Susan Evans.
Thank you. All right.
Have a good night.
Take care, everyone.
Good to see you.